Denise. Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. Denise. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party.
I gotta say, I feel like we're besties now after this. What's up, guys? It's Denise Salcedo. Hey there, everyone. I am officially back, and I'm here in F4W ready to get this party started here today. It is April 5th, and we are going to be chatting WWE NXT 2.0. That is right, the fallout from NXT Stand and Deliver. Now, I'm going to start off by letting you guys all know that not only will I be talking about NXT here today, but if you guys have any WrestleMania week related questions that you guys may have that I didn't answer, whether it was on Twitter or some of the other podcasts that I have done since I've been back, I will be answering any of those questions towards the end of the stream, just to make sure that I cover all my bases here today. But we got a lot to talk about here today, everyone, because NXT was it was a very interesting show today, okay? We had a crowd that was kind of a little bit, I don't know if weird is the right word to use. They were certainly amplified. They were chanting some things that I was just kind of like, okay, this is interesting. They were misbehaving, so to speak, today. I don't know how else to say it, but the CWC crowd was very interesting today. On top of that, we got some rather interesting, again, that's going to be the theme of today, decisions that were made on the show here today. So there was a lot of randomness, some back and forth with the titles, which we're going to talk about in just a second. This was a very weird episode of NXT, I'll tell you that much. We even ended in a very odd way, but we're going to go into all of that here today. Send in super chats if you guys want. That is the best way to get your comment, question, or statement read on the show, 100% guaranteed. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with our first super chat of the day. And this one is from Nick Grasso. Nick Grasso says, the booking on the show made no sense. Why would they have Dakota and Raquel win the tag titles just to drop them back to Toxic Attraction 3 days later? And Bron Breakker's booking, it's a mess. Well, Nick Grasso, I don't know how else to say that, but welcome to the show. You are the official co-host for today because you kind of got all my thoughts in this super chat. And it's true. So here's the thing. I've had a very busy last couple of days, and I didn't get a chance to watch Stand and Deliver. And I thought to myself, man, I'm going to do this NXT post show, and I didn't watch Stand and Deliver. Shit, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I'm running out of time. I was very stressed out. Then yesterday I'm watching Raw, and we have a rematch between Bron Breakker and Dolph Ziggler. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what happened on the show, but why are we getting a rematch? Okay, so I got that figured out, and that made no sense to do the rematch on Raw after Mania. From the looks of it, they just wanted the moment of maybe Bron Breakker coming out at Raw after Mania and winning the title on Raw after Mania. So it kind of didn't make any sense. It hasn't made any sense to begin with. Bron Breakker losing the title to Dolph Ziggler on NXT, and then taking the L at Stand and Deliver, and then getting a rematch on Raw to win the title, and then coming back to NXT, and we'll talk about that all in a second. So it has been sort of all over the place for Bron Breakker. On top of that, you have the booking of Dakota Kai, which has been all over the place. She's been a heel. She's been a face. She's been heartbroken by friends. She made a new friend. She returned to her old friend. Then she had already won the titles a long, long time ago. Won the titles at Stand and Deliver with Raquel, which again was kind of thrown together out of nowhere. She wins the titles. They win the titles, excuse me. And so they're champions. Cool. Then they lose the titles again here today to Toxic Attraction. This literally made no sense whatsoever. I think that we've got a lot of there's just a lot of back and forth going on. A lot of they're hot potatoing the belts, I should say, belts. I'm not a fan of that stuff, guys. I'm not a fan. If you're gonna do it, make it make sense. And it didn't make sense for Toxic Attraction. It didn't make sense for Dakota and Raquel. It didn't make sense for Bron Breakker. Hell, it didn't even make sense for Dolph Ziggler. It didn't make sense for nobody. So we'll talk about more of that in just a second here. But we got another super chat from Cadillac Carson who says, so when you sat by Veer, what did you guys talk about? Did you talk to him, right? Who knows if the planets will align like that again? I did not talk to Veer. So, really quickly, after the Cody scrum, I went down. So we were at the Omni Hotel, and I went down to their little sports bar and grill to upload my footage and also eat some breakfast because I hadn't eaten anything. And I saw a bunch of people. I saw Tasha Steeles there. I saw JBL there. I saw my good friend Jacob Ullman there. And so people were coming in and out. And so I'm sitting there, right, doing my little thing, and I'm about to leave. I'm literally getting my things. I'm just waiting for the girl to bring me my check. And I'm standing there, and I see a big guy turn to the right. And I'm like, oh, it's Veer. Then I'm like, no, it's not. And I turned back and I was like, oh, it's Veer inside my head. You know, when you watch a TV show or a movie and you have that moment where you see the person like, the moment where they realize something and the lights come out and you hear the opera, you know, like, oh, like a moment like that. And you see like bells are ringing, little angels are flying. That's how it felt. I was like, oh, it's Veer. No, it's not. Oh, wait. Yeah, it is Veer. I did a double take and I thought it was really funny. So I kind of looked at him and I just did like a little smile. You don't want to bother him. He's, you know, trying to have lunch or dinner or whatever. Lunch, actually. Lunch. Yeah, lunch. And, yeah, so I didn't say anything to him, but he did take a picture, I think, with like a fan or something because I was kind of listening. I was being a little bit of a chismosa there, just listening to what was going on. But thank you to Cadillac Carson. The stars did align with myself and Veer. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and continue on from here. Let's get into this show, guys, and then we'll talk more about WrestleMania afterwards because there's a lot to talk about. So, Bron Breakker. I've kind of already mentioned a little bit about what has been going on with his booking, and it has been, they should not have done it the way that they did. I think that they took a lot. When Bron Breakker came into NXT, like there was the whole thing of people, you know, not liking the name, right? But regardless, people were still rooting for him. People realized this guy is going to be a star. He comes from a very respected family. You know, he's got a great look. He's good in the ring. We're excited to see what he's going to do. So he had the respect from the fans and the fans behind him, okay? People were excited about him. And when he won the NXT championship from Tommaso Ciampa, it was kind of like, all right, yes, that's exactly what we were all expecting. Good. You know, he had a good series of matches with Tommaso Ciampa, you know, both as competitors and also as tag team partners. Good stuff there. All right, nice. Then we get this incorporation of Dolph Ziggler. And you guys were all, well, for those of you who were here on that show where Dolph Ziggler defeated Bron Breakker, I remember just coming on here and being like, why? Why are we having Dolph Ziggler defeat Bron Breakker? Like, why? It didn't make sense. And so then we go through all of this whole back and forth. And now here we are. He's opening up the show here tonight. And let me tell you, there was one major thing that to me kind of just emphasized that the booking of Bron Breakker has not been great. And I will tell you what it was. The crowd at the CWC was literally chanting. It was half the crowd. The crowd was 50-50 on Bron Breakker. They were like, we want Ziggler. No, we don't. We want Ziggler. No, we don't. I'm sorry, what? With Bron Breakker, the way that he kicked things off on NXT, the way his whole career started on NXT, we should not be 50-50 on Bron Breakker. Like, Bron Breakker should have been booked in a way where all the fans were like, yeah, Bron Breakker. But no, we got people half Dolph Ziggler and half Bron Breakker. That's not the way that it should be for this. So for me, it was very, very telling during this moment that the booking of Bron Breakker took a lot of the hype away. It was very, very telling with the crowd reaction. On top of this, there was a little bit of awkwardness too because Bron didn't really like react to that. Like, he didn't really like play off of what the crowd was doing. He kind of just like really stuck to what he was out there to do, out there to say, and didn't really riff with the crowd, which kind of made it a little bit more awkward because he started talking, right? He's kept talking like over the fans, and the fans kept going. They kept going, and it was just like so much background noise that was starting to, the background noise overwhelmed the promo itself. And I couldn't pay attention to the promo because I was listening to all of the background noise. And normally when you have things like that, it's like the crowd starts getting crazy, right? Usually a guy on the mic will say something to kind of like either A, rile them up to get a little bit, crazier, or B, shut them the hell up, right? Neither of those things happened. So it was a little bit awkward. So I did kind of feel bad for Bron in this situation because that's not the reaction that he should be getting. That was not I don't think the intended reaction that Bron Breakker should be getting from the CWC audience. So kind of proves the point that his booking has been terrible, right? On top of this, we got an interesting setup for an interesting main event, and that was Gunther, aka, or FKA, excuse me, formerly known as Walter. And so he comes out and he basically says, you can't call yourself the best in the world until you essentially beat the ring general. So they end up making this match between Bron and Gunther, and I'm thinking like, okay, shit, this is going to be interesting. First of all, I was excited for it the second they made this matchup because I know that it's going to be a good match, right? And it was a good match, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what we need to talk about first, because this kind of plays into what I thought was going to happen. But before I do, I'm going to get some comments here. How did you guys feel about the opening promo of Bron Breakker? Send that in. How do you guys feel about the booking thus far? And then we're going to go ahead and continue on and talk about Creed Brothers and Imperium, because that kind of plays into all of this here. All right, let's see what people are saying here. Drew Scott says, I'd rather say it was more 70-30 split, but you are right. Yeah, regardless, it's still a big amount, and we shouldn't have that reaction for Bron Breakker. That's not the reaction that he should be getting. And let's see what else we got here. This is from Major Blood, who says Bron should stay in NXT for at least another year. I get what you mean in terms of like maybe promo work to get better, but honestly, given that he is somebody that you're expecting to like go very far in the industry, I would have really liked had they just kind of put him on the main roster, man, because even if he wasn't like super perfect, they could have protected him. They could have found ways to like cover up his flaws. And if they did that on the main roster, he would still come across as like a big star. If they were going to have him lose, like when he lost the title to Dolph Ziggler in the beginning, I thought, okay, you know what? I don't agree with this, but maybe the silver lining is this guy's going over to the main roster. And that was not the silver lining whatsoever. The silver lining has yet to be seen, actually. And this is from Derek Ruse, who says, the crowd splits as Bron Breakker did his promo in the beginning was truly unexpected. It was, but knowing the way that he's been booked, you know why they reacted that way. But I kind of thought that maybe they were disregarded and be like, well, he's still a fan favorite, so let's cheer him on. But it wasn't. They were reacting the way that they felt here. So that was it was kind of disappointing. I did kind of feel really bad for him there. Pummy Wrestling says, really feels like they've wasted a Bron Breakker versus Imperium feud for a one-night angle to move to a Joe Gacy feud that I don't care for. Oh, we'll talk about that too, because that's going to be fun. For those of you who did not watch NXT today and are like, wait, what? Bron Breakker, Joe Gacy, what I missed? Ooh, you missed quite a little bit. But we got a super chat from Brandon Rosen. Brandon Rosen says, with the titles being passed around like a hot potato, I genuinely thought Gunther going to beat Bron Breakker tonight. So I'll tell you why I wasn't expecting Gunther to defeat Bron Breakker. So this segues into Creed Brothers versus Imperium. So immediately after this, we had Creed Brothers versus Imperium. And this was a good match, okay? You essentially had the majority of this match was Imperium literally just being super aggressive and beating the crap out of the Creed Brothers. And the Creed Brothers are, pretty impressive within themselves. So you had, 4 guys in there that are all like, badasses in their own right. Creed brothers are obviously, a lot more, fresher. They're a lot younger, but regardless, they've been the way that they've been presented on NXT and the way that they are in the ring, you can say that they're, badasses in their own right. Okay. Imperium's at another level for sure, but they still brought it. So you saw Imperium literally beat the crap out of the Creed brothers, but then it got a little bit weird because after this, we had this moment where Eichner walks out. He walks out of the match. He just leaves. And now, chat, I need your help here because I do not know. I may have missed this. What the hell caused Marcel to start bleeding the way that he did? What on earth caused it? Because it was like Eichner leaves 1 second, then you see Marcel's like bleeding from his whole side of his face. I'm like, did the guy lose an ear? What is going on here? So I noticed that right away. The second Eichner leaves, Creed brothers are able to essentially, get dominant, essentially becomes a 2-on-1, and they end up defeating Imperium. So, he leaves him alone. And then afterwards, before we get into what happens afterwards, I'm going to take a second here because there was a good moment where we had Marcel's on the ground bleeding. He's just been pinned. You have the Creed brothers wipe their hands on his blood. And then one of the Creed brothers, I think it was Brutus or Julius, I forget which one's which, forgot who it was. It was one of the Creed brothers, literally wipes his hand and then just licks it. He licks off the blood off his hands. It was completely savage, and I liked it. Kind of liked it. But anyways, let's see what people are saying in regards to this really quickly. This is from Drew, who says, I didn't realize how big Brutus Creed's his arms are. Yeah, they're pretty buff guys. Pretty buff guys. Bobby C says, I think we're getting Gunther to main roster without Imperium, and either or both Eichner and Marcel are getting released. Oh, I hope not. I don't like to assume people getting released. I think they're too good of a team. Imperium is just too good of a team, but a lot of people that got released are good. So there's that. And let's see what else we got here, guys. And okay. So this is from Pomi Wrestling. He says, Walter literally kicked out Alexander Wolf while the UK, and now he didn't care. Fabian Eichner walked out on them. So King of Fuego Mundo says that was a huge botch on the blood with no injury. Yeah, it was weird. Christopher says Marcel bleeding was weird. The guy walking out was weird, and the Creed brothers licking him. Okay, so nobody caught the part where he actually started bleeding. Because I don't recall seeing what actually caused him to start bleeding. So maybe somebody else will see that. But anyway, so we have this, this breakup, or not an official breakup, but we have, Eichner leaving. And there's a promo later on in the back where Gunther is essentially telling him hey, I don't want any distractions tonight for the main event. I don't want any distractions. I want to become NXT champion, etc. So part of me thought that somehow, some way in the main event itself, that we were going to see some sort of distraction for Walter in the match with Bron Breakker. So I was never expecting him to actually defeat Bron Breakker, but I wasn't expecting him to lose clean to Bron Breakker. But we'll talk more about that once I actually get to the main event, because I want to spend a little bit more time on that. But what we do need to talk about is that after Creed Brothers versus Imperium, we finally find out who has been attacking the Creed brothers. For the last couple of weeks, the Creed brothers have been attacked backstage. They were, jumped in the performance center by items were thrown on them. It was really weird, too, the way that whole thing was played out. But we have been trying to find out who was this team. We saw them trash their locker room, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago. And now the team has finally revealed themselves, and they are former NXT UK champions, Pretty Deadly. So that's the team. Now, you guys all know here that I don't watch NXT UK. NXT UK ain't my, isn't my bread and butter. I don't have time, never did, didn't watch it, etc. However, with that being said, I was reading a lot of the comments of what people were saying for those that did watch NXT UK, and a lot of people were saying that Pretty Deadly being part of the NXT roster here right now and coming in as that mystery team was a win. A lot of people had a lot of good things to say about Pretty Deadly. They have been teaming since 2019, but they came into WWE, I think they were making like sporadic appearances, I think, in NXT UK since 2019, but it wasn't until 2021 when they actually won the titles, okay? So people are liking them. People have liked them. So I'm excited to see what they're going to bring to NXT. I'm excited to see what they're going to do based on the good, positive feedback that I saw in regards to Pretty Deadly. So this is going to be the cool thing for me, is kind of discovering who they are and what they can actually do. So that was pretty awesome. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get some thoughts here, guys. If we have any people here who have seen Pretty Deadly in NXT UK, let me know your thoughts, guys. Again, I'm new to the team, so I'm going to basically count on all of you guys. Kind of like Carson says, Denise, everyone watches NXT UK. Not really. No. Yeah, definitely not really. All right, let's go ahead and see what people are saying here. This one is from Draper Dawn, who says, after the way they've done grizzled young vets time after time again, I have little faith that Pretty Deadly will get a good rub in the long run. Hope springs eternal, though. I think I can hope for the best. Like, the NXT tag team division is pretty good. They got a nice little couple of teams there that I have been enjoying. So for me, it's looking pretty okay, I would say so. And let's see what else we got here, guys. This is something who says, to answer your question on Marcel bleeding, Marcel sent Julius to the corner, and it looks like Julius hit Marcel when he rebounded back to him. Thank you so much for letting me know here, because that was my one question here for sure. And let's go ahead and get some more comments here, but I think we got most of the ones in regards to Tony says, first A-Kid, now Pretty Deadly. Exactly. And A-Kid did a good job. Like, he's been doing a good job on NXT. He's had like three matches now, and all those 3 matches were pretty darn good. So for me, it seems like they're picking their finest out of NXT UK. So that's a good sign, guys. That's a good sign. Not a good sign for NXT UK. I'm not expecting that thing to last, but I am happy that they're bringing in some good talent. Okay, so that's good. All right, let's continue on. So after this, we got Cameron Grimes, who is now the NXT North American Championship, getting the title in that ladder match. Carmelo Hayes, our previous champion. This is interesting. This was very interesting. So I told you guys I didn't watch the show, but we talked about this going into the show. Basically, one of the things that I was talking about was like, okay, if Carmelo Hayes I was hoping for Carmelo Hayes to actually retain the belt. Like, I love Carmelo Hayes. I think he's been doing a great job on NXT, and his matches have been pretty fun. But here's the thing. I did say that if he were to lose, I would like to see Cameron Grimes get the title. And the reason for that is Cameron Grimes, we already know that, he's good in the ring. I love the speed in which he works his matches. I think that he's a lot of fun to watch wrestle, and he has a good personality, lots of charisma. We already know all of that. But on top of that, Cameron Grimes kind of got to the point where he was sort of floundering on the roster. We had this transition from NXT to NXT 2.0. When he was, the last program that he had on the Black and Gold brand on NXT was that whole, storyline that he did with LA Knight and the $1 Million Championship. And he had a series of, decent matches with LA Knight, one of which people really, really loved. So, he was doing all of that with the LA Knights. And then we go into this transition for NXT 2.0, and we see LA Knight go off and do his own thing. Cool. And Cameron Grimes is sort of, going out there, and he's still having, pretty decent matches and whatnot. And, he's doing his thing, but there really wasn't like anything that you can say like, oh, Cameron Grimes is any sort of focal point on the show. He had the whole thing with Duke Hudson and the poker game, and that was a bust. That was not a good storyline whatsoever. And so then he's going out there, he's having these good matches, but nothing seems to be sticking for Cameron Grimes. Like, nothing was sticking. So I feel like him being NXT North American champion is sort of going to be that thing that now kind of gives him, it serves him a purpose. Like, what is his purpose now? Well, now we know that, he's going to be, well, that he is NXT North American champion. So for me, I'm like, okay, this is good for him because now he has a purpose here on this show versus Carmelo Hayes. Great performer, right? And I loved him as champion, and I did want to see him stick around as champion, but this doesn't hurt him, okay? I don't think this hurts him. While I would have liked for him to have, more matches, more, just more matches in general as champion, I don't necessarily think that it hurts Carmelo Hayes. So, but it helps. It doesn't hurt Carmelo Hayes, but it helps out Cameron Grimes a lot more, I think. Just because, again, he was floundering around. There wasn't anything really working for him. And now he's got something. So Cameron Grimes comes out, he's talking about winning the title. He's talking about his father. And then he's interrupted by Solo Sikoa, who was also, in that 5-way ladder match. Cool. Sikoa congratulates him. He tells him, you had a hell of a performance at NXT Stand and Deliver, but now that you're the champion, the hardest part about being champion is actually holding on to it. And he says, he makes a mention of the bloodline, basically saying that, championships and gold run in his bloodline. And I like that. He then says, quote, a champion needs a challenger, and that challenger is me. I loved that line. That was a really, really good line. So Solo Sikoa has been like hit or miss with me. Like there's certain weeks where I'm like, I like them. Certain weeks where I'm like, nah. But I will say this today. I thought that he was a good promo. He wasn't a flashy promo, but he was a serious promo. Like I could buy when he came out and said, you know what, you're a champion. Champion needs a challenger. I'm that challenger. I like that. So I thought that he came across as not too much, but fine. Like he nailed everything he needed to nail, essentially. Cameron Grimes accepts. We're going to see that match next week. I like this. I thought it was really easy peasy, straight to the point. And I'm wondering, I hope we don't see Cameron Grimes as a transitional champion. I really hope that's not the case. But it could be because I know that they're going to want to push Solo Sikoa, given his bloodline and all of that good stuff. But I do want to see Cameron Grimes do his thing with the NXT champion, the NXT North American Championship. But something does kind of tell me that he may be like a transitional champion. But we'll see. We'll find out shortly. I just don't think that Cameron Grimes deserves to be a transitional champion. He does good work. And like I said, he has personality, and I think he can do a lot with that. So we'll see what we got here. Pumi Wrestling says, you think they're calling up Carmelo Hayes since he was missing on the show? I don't know, guys. I know Shawn Michaels loves Carmelo Hayes. I think Carmelo Hayes is definitely I think he's ready to go to the main roster. I really do think so. If he were to go to Smackdown and they would actually give him a real shot and not bury the kid, let him go out there and do his thing. And, he's good on the mic and, he's good in the ring. He's fun. He's likable. I feel that would be a good decision. Like, I don't think he has to wait forever on NXT 2.0. Like, they can make a young up and coming star on the main roster too. I would like him on the main roster personally. And I would love to see him on Smackdown because I've said this on every freaking show that I'm on. We need more people on Smackdown. It's slim pickings over there. Slim pickings. Thank you, Pumi Wrestling, for sending in that question as well here. And King of Fuego Mundo says, Hayes got an injury. Remind me on that because I may have completely forgotten about that here. We got a super chat from Pile Driver Finisher who says, did you really remember those Randy Orton broken shoulder segments, Evil episode, or you had to do research? I definitely remembered them, but I did watch a lot of Randy Orton stuff before I did that interview to refresh my memory, guys. I've been watching wrestling for 19 years now, and a lot of people don't realize that because they look at me and they're like, oh, who's this little girl? Who's this little girl on YouTube? I've been watching wrestling since I was 9-10 years old. Well, my mom says that, I started a lot earlier, but I don't count that because I don't really remember that period. I was just a little kid, so I don't really count it. The age that I started remembering things and really, really becoming a fan, and by a fan, I mean going to the shows and buying the merchandise. And that's what I start counting as a fan. And that was 9 years old. And, I've, way past 9 years old now. So yeah. But I did do my research, guys. I made sure to have things in my head, in my mind. And, they were just asking me a bunch of questions. It was like 2 hours, and obviously only like, excuse me, I did 2 hours of talking and like 10 seconds airs. That's the way it works for documentaries. So, yeah. Kenny Williams sends in a super chat saying, "Ayo, Denise, I wish I could pinch your cheeks. You're a cutie." Thank you very much, Kenny. Please don't pinch the cheeks because they'll just stretch out even more. But I appreciate the super chat. All right, guys, let's go ahead and think here what we got. This one's from Something who says, "You think anyone's getting called up soon?" Dude, I thought we were going to get some call-ups on Monday, Raw after Mania. I was very, very disappointed to see that the only new faces we saw were Ezekiel, and if you want to count Veer, I don't think he counts as a new face whatsoever. But it's kind of crazy that Veer and Ezekiel were the two biggest stories besides Cody Rhodes on Raw after Mania. Think about that. Let it sink in, guys. Let it sink in. Today, my Raw after Mania video was about Ezekiel and Veer. All right, I was reaching, trying to find some stuff for that video. Reaching. So please watch that video because I need them clicks. All right, let's go ahead and continue on from here, guys. Let's see what we got here. And Haji Galashi says, literally, Ezekiel's face was a new thing too. I used Ezekiel's face for the thumbnail. I really went and used Ezekiel's face for the thumbnail. All right, let's move on from this. Let's see where we're at from here. Oh my God. All right, let's get into my least favorite portion of today's show. There's a lot that I like on NXT 2.0, and you guys know that, especially if you come in here each and every single week. There's a lot of things that I like. This ain't it. I could not be less interested in Dexter Lumis and Duke Hudson. I'm sorry, but this is just not for me. I don't know who this is for, but it's not for me. The Index winning sexiest couple, and I forgot what the Duke Hudson and Persia's couple's name is. Dusha. I forgot what their couple's name is, but they did this little skit where they're both girls are fighting because they both want to have the sexiest cowboy, and I'm like, I know a sexy cowboy. Ain't on this show. All right, so I hate myself for saying that. All right, moving on. All right, so all right, I'm breaking here, guys. This is live television. Let's get back to it. So we got Index wins sexiest couple here, and I'm like, who cares? Nobody cares. I didn't even understand the poll. Who voted? When did they vote? Where was the voting? Did they say? I didn't pay attention. If they did, I'm sorry, but I don't recall where they said who voted or when they voted and all of that. So anyways, so Dexter Lumis versus Duke Hudson. This was bad. But first and foremost, I want to talk about the Dexter Lumis character because I've come to the realization that, or I kind of, already thought this a long time ago, but I'm talking about it now. That is Dexter Lumis's character at some point needs to change, and it needs to change because if it doesn't, he's always going to stay in that same exact spot. That same exact spot that he is in right now on NXT 2.0. He's been on NXT for quite some time now, and he's never gotten above the level that he is at. He's always been in the exact same spot. I'm pretty sure that's not satisfying. They need to change the character at some point because in the beginning when he was doing the creepy thing, it was funny for a couple of memes here and there. Cool. But it went away so fast. And now he's stuck in these, silly storylines and they're not going anywhere. So it's just not happening. It's not happening there. Anyways, and the whole thing with Duke Hudson, I hated everything that he did with Cameron Grimes, but when they gave him the makeover, I thought, okay, cool, I could buy this Duke Hudson. And I became a fan of Duke Hudson for a week. And then they went and did him as this this cheesy romantic novel type of character. And so then I lost interest once again. So anyway, so they have this match. And the ending of this match was so bad that the people at the CWC started chanting, "This is stupid." Or, excuse me, "That was stupid." That's what they were chanting. That was stupid. Think about that. It was so bad that the people were chanting, "That was stupid." What it was essentially them, all four, fighting on the outside, that they get distracted and counted out. They got counted out of this match. This match ended via count out. It was so bad. And then they were all on the ground, laying there. I don't even know how they got in there. I wasn't even paying attention. I was just like, well, they all ended up in the ground. It was so bad. This is not good. And then, they were doing good with Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell, she really was the one that I think benefited a lot from the story with the way. She benefited a lot. Persia started coming out and having these matches where she looked pretty impressive. She was good, and they just kind of took that away and did this. And yeah, this was the least favorite part of the show for me, for sure. But anyways, let's go ahead and see what we got here. This is Pow Driver Finisher, who sends in a super chat saying, "For me, for him, versus new merch." I don't get it. Sorry, I don't get it. What am I missing here? What did I forget? Remind me. Sorry, Pow Driver Finisher. I'm sorry. All right, guys, let's go ahead and see what we got here. Twitchface says, "Kids today, when they're slang, stupid is a good thing now. Like how bad means good." No, that's not a thing anymore. I think that was a thing like back in the day and then a thing now. No, I've not heard like, if a kid says something stupid, it's stupid now. Like, it's not stupid in a good way. Yeah. So that's kind of how I feel about that. And alrighty, let's go ahead and get some thoughts here. This is from Kevin Bailey, who says, "I can't stand this storyline. This doesn't benefit anyone. It reminds me of a cheesy, stupid last night movie with terrible acting." I wonder what movie that was. There's some bad movies out there. But let's go ahead and move on. Alrighty. So from here on out, we got a very confusing segment, which a lot of people were like, what? So, Toxic Attraction versus Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship belts. Now, Dakota and Raquel just won these at NXT Stand and Deliver. Alrighty. Now, we got a pretty good match. This was a good match. Love the teamwork from Dakota and Raquel. Dakota went in there. She was showing her fiery self, running boot straight to the face of Gigi Dolan. Really nice. I thought Dakota Kai did a lot to really elevate this match. Raquel sold the knee, after she got taken out by Toxic Attraction. All good stuff. But then we got the ending. Wendy Chu comes out, and Wendy Chu is then taken out by Mandy Rose. And then the referee is distracted by Mandy Rose. This allows Toxic Attraction to throw a cheap shot. Okay, after this, we end up seeing Toxic Attraction hit the Toxic Shock. They end up getting the win. And just like that, Toxic Attraction are champions once again. So Dakota Kai and Raquel's championship run, their second championship run, their second time as champions, and they got screwed out of those belts. This did not make sense whatsoever. Why did you have Dakota and Raquel win? Dakota and Raquel win the titles at NXT Stand and Deliver to have them lose them the following week on NXT 2.0. Why? Then, here we go. So this may be why. They wanted to make Dakota Kai versus Mandy Rose, because that is the match that we are getting next week. Next week, we are getting Mandy Rose versus Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai is livid. She is pissed that Mandy Rose cost them their match. Her distraction ended up causing their match. She's in the back and she's throwing things and she's pissed, and she tells Mandy Rose to watch her back. And then they announce that she's going to be competing for the NXT Championship next week. Now, if next week Dakota Kai does not win the NXT Women's Championship, I do not know why they're doing this. And even then, I don't think, like, if they wanted to do Dakota Kai versus Mandy Rose, I don't think they still had to do it this way, where they hot potato the belts. They could have come up with a different way to make it happen so that they could still have Dakota Kai versus Mandy Rose. So you didn't technically have to do it this way, but that's the way that it was done. So with that being said, when I realized that I had not watched Stand and Deliver and that I was stressed because I hadn't had time to watch it, I thought to myself, well, I don't need to watch it no more. And I don't. And I'm not. I'm not going to watch Stand and Deliver. That's it. We've moved past it. Time's up. We got a super chat from Brandon Rosen who says, including this weekend, Dakota and Raquel held the tag titles for a grand total of 4 days. My goodness. And here's the thing. If they were to give them a real full-fledged run as champions, they'd be badass champions, man. Raquel bringing in her powerhouse self. Dakota Kai bringing in her fiery self. They are such a good blend together. Like they could be so much fun. And here's the thing too, like Toxic Attraction, they don't need to be the champions anymore. Like, yeah, they were okay as champions. They don't need to be champions though. Like we were, been there, done that, got a little, stale at the end. They hadn't even been defending the titles that much. This is interesting. Yeah, this was interesting, but what can you do? All right, here we go. Major Blood says such a convoluted route to Mandy versus Dakota. Pretty much. And King of Hueco Mundo says this was proof that WWE NXT goes for the look and not the talent, and it's off for the ratings. Yeah, apparently the Toxic Attraction numbers are doing pretty well is what I've heard. So maybe that's why. I don't know. And let's go ahead and see what people are saying here in regards to how Twitch Face 4 says, watch Stand, but don't watch Deliver. Kevin says the booking made no sense. To be nice, Raquel Dakota got the titles for a feel-good moment. To only lose them 3 days later is awful. Yeah, and that's the thing, guys. Like, I don't like the whole let's just do this for a feel-good moment. Let's just do this so the crowd can pop as to seeing new champions, because then it just defeats the purpose. Because then it's like, okay, let's say we go to a show, or let's say you're watching a show, right? And you see a new champion being crowned. You're going to be like, all right, cool, whatever. They're going to lose it next week. You don't want to take away the excitement from somebody being crowned champion. So it just doesn't set the best precedents. But here we go. Let's see what else people are saying here about all of this. And this is from Pomi, who says, fun fact, Dakota Kai has been so long in NXT. She arrived before Mandy Rose had her first main roster call-up in 2017. Yikes, that is a fun fact for sure. And yes, this is true. This is from Isaac Looper, says they hardly defended them. Yeah, I don't recall how many actual title defenses we've had from Toxic Attraction. They mainly do the whole, like, they come out and they dance and they look gorgeous, by the way. But then they just go and that's it. All right, team. So yeah, I'm kind of sad. I don't know why I'm sad. I think I'm wondering, like, are we going to get Dakota Kai as champion next week? And even if we do, is it going to feel right? Is the build for Dakota Kai becoming champion going to feel right? It actually kind of felt, oddly enough, even though she was the heel when she was facing Raquel Gonzalez, people wanted to see her as champion then. It felt right. Because at the end of the day, it was a big old story that she was doing with Raquel Gonzalez and so much history there. It felt right then. Now it just kind of feels like, well, the story doesn't add up. But okay, that's where we're at. Alrighty, so from here on out, let's go ahead and move on. So we got a backstage segment with Joe Gacy and Harland, and who would have thought that this was going to actually play a major role at the end of the show? They were basically doing their little promos and talking about family and chaos controlling you. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, it's just Harland and Joe Gacy. I was just like, oh, whatever, right? Well, I didn't realize it was going to play a big part at the end of the show, and we'll talk about that once we get there. But next up, let's talk about Tony D'Angelo and AJ Galante. So I did not know who AJ Galante was, and I did Google, in fact. He said to Google if you didn't know who he was. Oh, I Googled. And anyways, again, I didn't watch Stand and Deliver. I know he was there, but I didn't watch. Anyway, so Tony D'Angelo, he defeated Tommaso Ciampa. Great. Basically, the segment was him becoming the Dawn of NXT. But here's what the crowd during this was chanting, "You are basic" to AJ Galante, and they were also chanting "boring." So it really was one of those things where I was like, oh man, this is rough. It was rough to get through. It was rough. It was a short segment, but it was just nobody cared. And that's a problem. It was a problem, especially because Tony D'Angelo has been over. Tony D'Angelo on his own has been over. But the people weren't having it at the CWC. But anyways, he's the Don now. Cool. And backstage, it looks like we're going to end up going with Tony D'Angelo and Santos Escobar, which should be really good. I'm looking forward to that. Basically, Santos Escobar gives them, some advice because, he's also, a boss man. He's also a patron, all of that good stuff, right? He basically tells him, stay out of my business. And Tony D'Angelo's like, so we're definitely going somewhere with these guys. And I would like that. I like that because you got two of these, I don't know how to call it. But it's going to be good. All right. Any thoughts on Tony D'Angelo? Let's see what we got here. Brandon Rosas says AJ Galante couldn't handle the crowd. He did tell him to shut up, but he did look a little rattled. Yeah, he looked a little rattled. Like, it wasn't like, shut up. And I'm like, living like, yeah, I told the crowd to shut up. It was more like, shut up. Yeah. Anyways. And let me make sure I got all of these here, but let's move on from this. Let's get into Nikita Lyons versus Lash Legend. Nikita Lyons is a fan. She's a favorite here. Everybody loves Nikita Lyons. Lash Legend, this I thought was going to be a lot worse. It was not bad. It was just a match. They actually made the Lash Legend look pretty decent. Pump kick from Lash Legend. Nice. Okay, cool. She did an elbow to the back of Nikita Lyons, excuse me. I'm stumbling for a second because instead of writing an elbow to the back, my notes said an allow to the back. Damn it, notes. They always ruin this for me. Anyways, then she does a cartwheel and a moonsault onto Nikita Lyons. That was good. She didn't land it perfectly, but it was fine. Showed a little bit of her athleticism. Cool stuff. I can't do that. She could, so thumbs up. And then Lyons does a suplex on her. Cool. We get some rights, some lefts from both women. Cool. Nikita Lyons wins with her splits. This was not bad. I thought it was going to be I thought this was going to be a disaster. I'm not kidding you. I thought this was going to be bad. Like bad. It wasn't bad. I thought it was going to be bad. So this wasn't like a great match. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it was a great match. I'm not saying it was a good match. I'm just saying it wasn't bad. So there's that. So that's a pro. That's a positive. Thumbs up right there. That's a real positive. And King of Fuego Mundo says Tony and Escobar have similar characteristics and know how to work the crowd. Yeah, exactly. That'd be nice to see that. And Cadillac Carson says, I guess Lash heard the Lions roar. Major Blood says, no idea how long she's been wrestling, but Nikita Lyons is pretty decent. I think she needs a new finisher, though. With the splits, is meh moo. Well, they do the splits because it's sexy, right? Like, you got a sexy girl doing a sexy move. It's supposed to be sexy. That's what NXT 2.0 is all about. The new NXT 2.0. I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is. And in terms of her being, she's been wrestling for a while. I interviewed her back when she was working at the WoW superhero things. That was like back in 2017. And yeah, so she was wrestling then. So she's been wrestling for a couple of years now. And she's got like a legitimate, like, she's a very well-rounded person. Very well-rounded. I like her. I really like Nikita Lyons. So here we go. Let's talk before we get into the main event. We got our matches that are announced for next week. We got 3 championship matches and then 2 regular matches that were announced. We got Mandy Rose versus Dakota Kai for the NXT Women's Championship. Again, that's going to be interesting. Either we're going to see Dakota Kai lose and this is going to continue, or we're going to see Dakota Kai win. We'll find out. Cameron Grimes versus Solo Sikoa for the NXT North American Championship. Looking forward to that. NXT tag titles, Grayson Waller and Sangha versus MSK. That's going to be interesting. Kushida versus Von Wagner. Kushida's going to have his working shoes on. This is going to be all Kushida, guys. All of it. So expect that. Draco Anthony versus Zion Quinn. We haven't seen Zion Quinn wrestle in a hot minute. At least I don't think so. He started this whole like love affair thing with Elektra Lopez and then didn't do anything after that. So that's about it. All right, so there we go. Let's go ahead and get into this main event match. But before I do, just a friendly reminder that tomorrow I am back here to talk about AEW Dynamite. That is right, Wednesday, my most popular show of the week. Make sure you guys come through and check out that show. On top of that, guys, after I'm done talking about the main event, if you guys have any questions regarding WrestleMania weekend, WrestleMania itself, Dallas, Access. I was at Dallas. I was at WrestleMania. I was at GCW, Joey Janela Spring Break 1 and 2. I was at Mission Pro Wrestling. I was at Ring of Honor. You name it. If you have any questions on any of those things, I will be answering some of those at the end of this stream. So if you have anything that you're curious about, you want to know, I will go ahead and give you guys the 411. But now let's go ahead and jump into this main event. And that was Bron Breakker versus Gunther, formerly known as Walter. And this was interesting because when this match started, and I thought to myself, damn, what did they do to both Bron Breakker and Gunther? That the crowd, the CWC crowd, was legitimately chanting, "We want Ezekiel." No, we don't. We want Ezekiel. No, we don't. Think about that. In a match where the main event is Bron Breakker versus Gunther for the NXT Championship. And those were the chants at the top of this match. Think about that. Well, anyways, they definitely won the crowd back, though, later on in this match because we did get this as awesome chants. This was a fun match. Some of the good moments that we had during this was obviously Walter chopping Bron Breakker, clearly. A beautiful, painful-looking boot to the face of Bron Breakker from Walter. Absolutely phenomenal. For the finish, Breakker spearing Gunther. That was fun. Gunther chops Bron, gets him into a sleeper. And then in the end, we end up seeing Breakker defeat Gunther clean. This was good. I legitimately thought this was going to be a DQ finish. I thought there was going to be some sort of distraction with the members of Imperium. That's what I thought was going to happen. I wasn't expecting a clean finish. Now, let me add to this as to I tweeted that I actually thought this Bron Breakker defeating Gunther today was massively needed for Bron Breakker. Massively. Bron Breakker is your NXT champion. He is supposed to be larger than life. He is supposed to be, high quality meat, okay? He's supposed to be the shit, the man as the champion. All righty. The booking has been terrible for Bron Breakker. We've already established that. Him getting this win over Gunther, I actually thought was good only because, damn, he needed it. He really, really needed it. And he wasn't going to get it wasn't going to mean much if he just defeated some rando on the NXT 2.0 roster or just some person that doesn't really mean a lot on the roster. It had to be somebody that was a bigger deal, somebody like Gunther, okay? And to me, it does not hurt seeing Gunther lose to Bron Breakker because Bron Breakker is a champion and he's not just some rando on the roster. So personally, I was a fan of this and I thought that he needed it and he needed it badly. But now, here's the thing. We're now moving on to a storyline with him and Joe Gacy and Harland. So this is going to be good for Harland. Harland will benefit from this. Joe Gacy, I think is going to be a weak challenger. That's going to be interesting. But what they basically closed the show out with was really, really dorky because they had Rick Steiner. Yeah, Rick Steiner in a little cage, like a Chuck E. Cheese cage. Like one that you go and do a photo op with. Okay? Look really cheesy. And he's tied there, and then you see both guys taunting and threatening Bron Breakker. Oh, it was so cheesy. I wasn't a fan of the way that this played out at the end. I was not digging it, but That's where we're going, guys. That is where we're going. So that was the NXT review. I see some super chats coming in, so I'm going to read those as well. Again, if you guys have any questions, anything surrounding WrestleMania, I'm also going to go ahead and answer any of those questions right now. But let's go ahead and see what you guys are saying here. This one is from Mike Parker, who says, Braun hitting his finisher on Gunther was sick. He's going to be a huge star when they call him up. Well, hopefully, if they need to get Bron Breakker back on track. They need to undo all the wrongs that they did with Dolph Ziggler in this whole storyline and get Bron Breakker back on track. Cadillac Carson says, call me crazy. I think I want Gacy to win the title just so the internet can explode. I want the chaos on the web. No. Oh my God. No. That'd be horrible. Horrible. Although, if that were to happen, a bunch of people would come on this show, be very mad, and send a bunch of super chats. So, I could find a silver lining, but no, it would be terrible. Thank you, Cadillac Carson, for sending that in here today. Let's go ahead and see what people are saying here. All right, and this is from this is from Uriel Vega, who says, Braun has to kill Gacy and Harley when he catches them, right? That's the appropriate response when someone kidnaps your father, right? Anything less will make Braun look weak. 100% Ariel. You got it. You nailed it. Braun has to dismantle both men. I don't want to see Gacy or Harlan's get one up on Bron Breakker. No way, Jose. They need to have Bron Breakker come in here and kill these guys. Kill them. Jeff Perillo says it was a dog cage. Come on. Alrighty. Zeno Hour says Bron Breakker is going to need backup to save his father. Uncle Scott in NXT. And Poby Wrestling says, thanks gosh for an actually great match before Dynamite, before Walter versus Breakker. The best thing from this week was Best Friends versus the War Horsemen. I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that. But I don't ever get to watch Dark Elevation, guys. I just don't have any time. I legitimately don't. All right, let's go ahead and see. YT says, was No Way Jose on NXT? No way Jose was not on NXT, guys. All right, guys. So here we go. I'm going to spend maybe the next couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, answering any of your questions for WrestleMania weekend. If you have them, send them in. Let's see what people are saying here. Oh, also, apparently, and I did see this. After NXT ended, the WWE Evil episode for Randy Orton came out, and that's the one that I'm on. So a bunch of people that didn't see it are like, what the frick? Denise is on WWE Evil. That's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and see what we got. This is from King Hueco Mundo. Says, I'm sorry, but this storyline against Gacy is horrible. Yeah. The Cooch 97 says, Denise, is the interviewing gig on Ring of Honor a one-time thing, or are you going to be a regular? Well, that's a hard question to answer because I do not know. So I'll give you guys a little insight here on what my whole situation is. So prior to Tony Khan purchasing Ring of Honor, I was going to start working with Ring of Honor full time. It was going to be a thing. It was happening. I was in the process of making that happen. I was speaking with, the previous people that were running Ring of Honor, and I was essentially going to be brought on as, their person to do interviews and all of that good stuff. And basically what happened there is, so they were going to essentially offer me a non-exclusive contract, guys, because of my work with Fightful, F4W, and, Wrestle Talk and my own channel and, everything that I do. I don't want to be exclusive to a company, right? If I'm exclusive to somebody, it's legitimately got to be worth it. It's got to be worth it for me to give up everything else that I'm doing. I'm not looking to be signed exclusively. I'm making, a decent living, doing my gigs with GCW, doing this stuff, doing my videos and all of that, being my own boss. And so I was going to be non-exclusive with Ring of Honor and basically do that with them. But when the purchase happened, it basically changed things. And so now I legitimately don't know, because I don't even know if that's an option. I don't know. So it's now it's a completely new ownership. So you just don't know what, it could be just a one-time thing. It could be more. I don't know. I'm literally just I went I did my best job that I can do. Under, first day nerves, because that's the thing. When you have first day nerves, they're there, guys. The first day nerves are there. And I was especially a little extra nervous too, because Tony Schiavone was producing me, guys. And Tony Schiavone is a freaking legend in this business. And when I found out he was producing me, I was like, oh my God, Denise, do not fuck this up. Like, do not mess this up. And, thankfully, like, I did a decent job, so I've heard. And so I don't know if it'll lead to something else. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully, I would like more money, so that's nice, but we'll see. Thank you, the Kuja97, for sending that in here. And kind of like Carson says, how do you keep a straight face interviewing Becky Lynch when she starts going off on Bianca? She was so great in that interview. Yeah, it's kind of hard sometimes, guys, because I don't like to do interviews in kayfabe. I like to do interviews that it's the real person. I'm not a fan of kayfabe interviews, but when it's Becky Lynch and, she's going out there and she's, doing a kayfabe, like, interview, like, that's okay with me, So it's more of the thing where I'm like, okay, you have to read the person that you're interviewing. And it's like, in my interview with Becky Lynch started off just, a regular interview. We're talking about clothes because she's literally been interviewed by like 75 people in one day, and they're all asking the same question. So I'm trying to think of something different here. And then, so, when she obviously starts talking about Bianca, she gets back into character. So that's fine, because it wasn't, the entire interview wasn't like kayfabe. So that's fine. You just got to work with it. You got to balance it out and whatnot. So that was my second time interviewing Becky Lynch, and she's a star, and she makes my job easier. Because when you have somebody that is good at doing interviews and somebody who has a big personality, it makes your job as the interviewer so much easier. Like, I don't gotta pull teeth. Like, I've had interviews where I've had to pull teeth. And by that, I mean like pull stuff out of the person. And those could be rough, man. They could be rough. But not Becky Lynch, man. I have so much respect for Becky Lynch. And let me tell you why. WWE had 75, that's what I was told, 75 media people there. Okay? Do you have any idea how many interviews she did? And I was in her first, I was in her second, I was in her third, I was in her fourth, I was in her fifth. I was probably maybe her 15th, her 20th, maybe 25th interview. And she went out there and she brought all the energy in the world, and she gave me the best interview that she could, like if I was the first person that she was talking to. And it made me feel good, and it made the work that I put out so much better. So I have nothing but complete and utter respect for Becky Lynch, because, man, going back to back and being asked a million questions, and a lot of those questions being the same, because you got to understand, all these media people, you got people from all over the world, media from the United Kingdom, media from Qatar, media from Los Angeles, media from Kentucky. You got people everywhere. So the point is, they're all going different directions. Different people are going to be seeing these interviews. So even though you may be getting asked the same question over and over again, you got to understand it's going to be a different audience seeing those interviews. So I have nothing but complete and utter respect for Becky Lynch. Cameron Mumford, who I just met this weekend, says, hey, Denise, heard you had a very interesting meet and greet experience at Mission Pro Wrestling the past Saturday. That must have been pretty exciting. Cameron Mumford, one of the biggest supporters of the show, surprised me at Mission Pro Wrestling and gave me my first ever fan gift that is going to be in the vlog, which I'm still editing at this moment. Cameron Mumford, it was great to meet you. Thank you so much for all of your support. And that moment was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Dave N wants to know if I'm going to be at GCW San Francisco. I'm not, guys. I only do the shows in Los Angeles, guys, because too much traveling for me is sometimes it's too much for me. So I only do really the ones here in Los Angeles here. And thank you so much to Zeno Hour for the very nice comment. Dave N says, Ian Riccaboni called you Denise Salcedo. Y'all got beef. No, I love Ian Riccaboni. Oh, and bless his heart. He was he felt so bad about that mistake. Oh, I felt bad that he felt bad, and he hit me up personally. He personally apologized to me, which he didn't have to. And then he publicly apologized to me, which he didn't have to. Guys, now that I do commentary and, doing these shows live, there's so much going on in a person's head, so much that you have to remember, so much you have to talk about. There's a lot going on in here, and sometimes you're going to make mistakes. I know that because I've made a zillion mistakes that you guys have already seen on this show. So for me, he made a mistake. I don't care. and he was so apologetic about it. He didn't even have to apologize. Although a bunch of people were asking me if I got a name change, which was pretty funny. Brandon Rosen sends in a super chat saying WrestleMania 38 was a bunch of silly, wacky pro wrestling fun, and I really enjoyed it. I wonder where they go with Roman Reigns now that he retained. I'm wondering, man, if they're going to have Cody take those belts off of him. Like, part of me wonders, like, if it's going to happen. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Nick Rasta wants to know if I'm ever going to get in the ring for GCW again. Never say never, but as of right now, no. It was just a one-time thing, guys. Just a fun little spot for Sean and I, and it made sense to do it in the clusterfuck, and it made sense for our little beef that we've been having the last couple of days. Connor Delaney says the longest I laughed this weekend before Vince's stunner was Denise eliminating Sean. That was the highlight of my weekend. Sean and I did a GCW recap show, not a recap show, like our GCW recap experience rather, on a Fightful. That's there, but also on my vlog. I'm gonna make sure to put the clips for that. That was a lot of fun. So good stuff there. Alrighty, guys. So there you go. That was today's show. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out here and for joining me. I will see you tomorrow night on here for AEW Dynamite, and then I will be back on Friday to talk about SmackDown and Rampage. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.